They don't clap when you win. They just stare. That smile they give, it doesn't reach their eyes. And you've felt it, haven't you? Not just once, but your whole life. You walk into a room and somehow it shifts. People look, then pretend they weren't. A silence falls. A vibe changes. You feel watched, not with admiration, but something colder, tighter, heavier. Jealousy. It clings to the air like humidity. It doesn't always speak. It doesn't always lash out, but it watches, silently, closely, every move you make. They're watching. Not because they want to be you, because deep down they know they never can, and that's the curse of the chosen one. You didn't ask for this path. You didn't beg for the spotlight. But your presence exposes what others hide. They can't fake peace around you when yours is real. They can't pretend to have purpose when you radiate it without trying. And so, instead of seeking their own light, they resent yours. You probably noticed it started young. Maybe you were the quiet kid, or the gifted one, or the misunderstood one. But even then, people stared. You made others uncomfortable without saying a word. They said you were too much, too intense, too emotional, too ambitious, too you. But the truth is, you weren't too much. You were just unapologetically real in a world that survives on masks. You didn't blend in, and they hated you for it. You remember that one moment, don't you? That one early betrayal, the first time jealousy made a friend turn enemy. It was small, subtle, a look, a cold shoulder, a joke that wasn't really a joke, but it cut deeper than it should have. You didn't understand it back then. You thought, what did I do wrong? But the answer was, you did nothing. Your light simply exposed their shadow. And once someone sees their own darkness in your reflection, they have a choice: heal it, or hate you for it. Most people, they choose the latter. You've noticed how people shift when you start succeeding. Not strangers, but the ones closest to you. They liked you more when you were struggling, when you were doubting yourself, when you were less. But the moment your confidence rose even a little, they pulled back. They got busy. They stopped supporting, started watching from a distance, arms folded, pretending not to care, but they cared. Oh, they cared. They just couldn't handle your evolution. Why? Because when you rise, they're forced to confront their own stagnancy. When you elevate, you remind them of everything they could be, if only they'd done the work. And the work. It's painful, so instead of rising with you, they resent you. This jealousy doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes quietly in the form of sarcasm, subtle jabs, backhanded compliments. She's doing a little too much lately. He's changed, not the same person anymore. Let's see how long this phase lasts. But those aren't observations, they're projections. They're watching you, not to celebrate, but to wait for you to fall, to stumble, to break down and prove them right, because your failure would be their relief. Don't you ever wonder why certain people suddenly stopped talking to you when you started healing? Why old friends disappeared when you set boundaries? Why the ones you supported didn't show up when it was your turn to shine? It's not coincidence. It's spiritual jealousy. See, your glow isn't just seen by human eyes, it's sensed on a soul level. You walk into a room, and your energy introduces you before you speak. Some people are inspired by it, others feel threatened by it, especially those hiding from their own potential. And so they watch, they mimic, they mock, but deep down, they know you were chosen for something they can't touch. There's a danger in this. Awake to it, because being watched in jealousy can start to wear you down. It can make you shrink, make you question if you're too bright for the world. Around you, you might start dulling yourself, just to fit in. Laughing softer, hiding your gifts, playing small. But listen to me. Don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable in their shadows. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't born to shrink. You were chosen to break patterns, to shatter illusions, to rise, even when it makes others uncomfortable. And yes, it can feel lonely. You sit in rooms where no one really sees you. You show love to people who give you indifference. You build bridges they never walk across. And the jealousy, it never quite goes away. You start something new, they doubt. You try something bold, they laugh. You glow, they glare. But every glare confirms one thing. You were never meant to live average, because average doesn't provoke envy, greatness does. And now you see the truth. You're being watched, not because you're failing, but because you're shining in a way they don't understand, because you remind them of who they could have been if they had the courage to do what you're doing. So don't apologize. Let them watch, let them seethe, let them study you in silence. Let their envy fuel your fire, because what they envy is exactly what you were sent to embody. Your light isn't the problem, it's the proof. But now comes the real question, the one they never want you to ask. What happens when the jealous ones stop watching from the shadows and start working against you in secret? What happens when their envy turns into sabotage? When the smiles fade and the knives come out? That's what you're about to discover. ... They don't always attack. You head dash on. No, that would be too obvious. The ones who are most jealous of you, they hide it behind a grin, a laugh, a supportive sounding twice that never quite rings true. You've seen it. They congratulate you, but something's off in their tone. They comment, "I'm so proud of you," but it feels staged, rehearsed. And when they hug you, you can feel it in your gut. They're hugging the version of you they secretly hope will fail. It's a performance, and the stage is your life. They watch your every move, not because they care, but because they can't believe you're actually doing what they never could. So they smile, with teeth and sharpened envy beneath their tongues. You see, the energy of jealousy isn't loud at first. It's slippery. It hides in silence, in the friend who suddenly stops texting when you win, in the family member who accidentally leaves you out of a celebration, in the co-worker who forwards your idea to the boss before you do. It's the ache behind every "I'm just being honest," the venom behind every "you've changed," the tension in a room when you walk in with joy they never gave themselves permission to feel. And the scariest part, sometimes you don't even recognize the betrayal until you're already bleeding. Let's talk about that betrayal. Yes, that one. The moment you realized someone close to you didn't actually love you. They just loved having power over your brokenness. They were never truly rooting for your healing, because your broken version was easier to manage. Predictable, safe, small. But healing made you bold. Healing gave you voice. Healing made you sovereign. And that made you dangerous to the ones who fed on your self-doubt. So they turned, not because you wronged them, but because you stopped needing their validation. Your glow exposed their wounds. And instead of healing, they chose to wound you. In return, it happens in whispers, in private group chats, in rooms you're not invited to. They take pieces of your story and twist them, mock your dreams, call you fake woke, say you think you're better than everyone, You were just trying to survive, trying to stay aligned, trying to stay sane in a world that constantly tries to dim those who dare to evolve. But jealousy, it doesn't care about the truth. It cares about control. And when they can't control you anymore, they try to control how others see you. Have you noticed how your name ends up in places you've never stepped foot? How stories about you grow legs and run? How people speak with conviction about things they only think they know? That's jealousy doing what it does best, inventing fiction to justify their failure to grow. They don't hate you. They hate the version of themselves that never became you. And so, their only weapon is narrative. Because if they can make people question you, even for a moment, they can avoid confronting what you force them to see in themselves. This is why the chosen one must walk with discernment. You can't trust every clapping hand. Some are just waiting for you to fall so they can say, "See, I knew it." You must learn to feel the difference between support and surveillance. One is love, the other is envy wrapped in curiosity, and envy is not harmless. It prays for your downfall in silence. It mimics you to steal your power. It befriends you to gain access, only to sabotage you from within. It's the voice that says, "You inspire me," but the eyes that say, "I want to be you, and I'll burn you down if I can't." Let's get honest. There were times you felt it coming, didn't you? That uneasiness, that tension you couldn't explain. That moment when someone's energy shifted and your spirit whispered, "Be careful," but you ignored it, because you didn't want to seem paranoid, because you loved them, because you didn't want to believe that someone so close could be that bitter. But your spirit was never wrong. The warning signs were real. The fake support, the constant competition, the subtle sabotage dressed as advice. You sure you want to post that? I don't know if that's a smart move. You're growing too fast. Don't get cocky. They pretended to care, but what they really wanted was to see you second-guess your own power. And here's the part that hurts most. Some of these people, you carried them. You prayed for them. You rooted for them when no one else did. You believed in their healing. You forgave what you should have walked away from. You extended grace where you should have drawn the line, and they still chose envy. They still chose to envy you, not because you did them wrong, but because you outgrew the version of you they were comfortable with. And growth, to the jealous, feels like betrayal. Now listen closely. Their jealousy is not your burden to carry. You don't have to shrink for their comfort. You don't have to dull your shine to keep their egos intact. You were not chosen to be liked. You were chosen to be seen. And when you are truly seen, when your soul begins to speak louder than your silence, not everyone will clap, not everyone will stay, not everyone will survive the brightness of your truth. And that's okay. Let them leave. Let them talk. Let them glare from the shadows. Because what's coming for you requires spiritual privacy. Not everyone can sit at your next table. Not everyone can witness your next chapter. Some people were meant to betray you, so they'd disqualify themselves before your breakthrough. But here's what they don't realize. Their jealousy. It's just fuel, because every time they curse your name, they give it power. Every time they doubt your dream, it grows stronger. Every time they try to block your path, they end up pushing you further into alignment. Their hatred is your confirmation. Their envy is your evidence. You are rising, and they know it so. Let them keep watching. Let them keep talking. Let them burn in the fire of your evolution, because they've only seen your beginning. What happens next, they'll never be ready for. But are you? Because in the next chapter, you'll realize the spiritual realm is watching too. Not with jealousy, but with expectation. Heaven has its eyes on you now, and that's where things start to shift. There's a moment quiet and eerie when you realize something deeper is happening. The envy you faced wasn't just human. No, it felt older, stronger. It had a presence, like something was behind those people, whispering, feeding, stirring. Because when you're chosen, it's not just the people around you watching anymore. There are eyes you cannot see, forces that do not want your light to rise, entities that feed on doubt, confusion, and pain, and they don't care who they use to get to you. The jealous friend, the bitter sibling, the emotionally absent partner. Sometimes they're not acting alone. They're being influenced, and that's why it feels so strange, so hard to explain. Because it isn't just human. When your purpose is divine, the opposition is spiritual. You've felt it, haven't you? You're walking in peace, your heart is clear, your spirit calm. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, anxiety creeps in. A heavy fog descends, your mind starts racing, and you ask yourself, where did that come from? That's not random. That's spiritual warfare, because your light, your voice, your alignment, it threatens the very systems of darkness designed to keep humanity asleep. You were born with a frequency that shakes the unseen, and every time you speak truth, every time you rise in love, every time you refuse to break under pressure, it echoes in the physical world and in the spirit realm. That's why people start acting strangely. When you're close to your breakthrough, they distance themselves. Or worse, they turn against you. Not because you changed, but because the atmosphere around you did. You became too radiant to ignore, too aligned to control, too awake to be manipulated. And the darkness doesn't like that. They watch you closely now, because you remind them of what they buried. You mirror the part of them they exiled. The version that once believed, once hoped, once dreamed without limits. Your freedom exposes their prison. Your clarity reveals their confusion. Your power challenges their passivity. So the only way they know how to feel safe is to project, to make you the villain, to tear you down, to label your light as arrogance, your discernment as paranoia. But deep down, they know something sacred walks with you. They know there's a hand over your life they can't touch. They know their efforts to curse. You only amplify your calling, and it terrifies them. Now here's where things shift. Because you're not just dealing with jealous humans anymore. You're being tested by spiritual realms. That's why the betrayal hurts so deeply. Why the isolation feels unbearable. Why your intuition is screaming louder than ever. It's not just that people envy you. It's that something bigger is trying to break you before you bloom. Because if it can confuse you now, you'll abort the mission. If it can delay you long enough, you'll miss the window. If it can convince you you're unworthy, you'll self-destruct before you ever reach the crown. But listen to me, the pressure you feel right now, that ache in your soul, that weight you can't shake, that's not punishment. It's confirmation. It's heaven whispering. Don't break now. You're closer than you think. So what do you do when the jealousy isn't just from others, but the air itself feels thick with resistance? You go inward. You align. You remember who you are. Because clarity is your weapon. When you remember you were chosen, you stop needing permission. You stop explaining your glow. You stop apologizing for your peace. You stop shrinking to make others feel better. Because the spiritual realm doesn't wait for you to be ready. It waits for you to accept. Accept that the calling is real. Accept that the betrayal had purpose. Accept that the isolation was sacred preparation. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned, because God doesn't send chosen ones into battle without first training them in silence. Do you understand what that silence was for now? Those months or years where no one clapped for you, where everything you touched seemed to fall apart, where every door slammed shut and every friend disappeared. That was your wilderness. And the wilderness wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to refine you, so you'd no longer rely on validation, so you'd learn to hear divine instruction. So when the world turned on you, you'd already know how to stand alone, because the chosen one can't be dependent. The chosen one must be anchored from within, and jealousy, it's part of the test. Can you remain pure when poisoned with envy? Can you remain focused when surrounded by distraction? Can you stay true even when misunderstood, mocked, and watched like prey? Because you are being watched, not just by those who want you to fail, but by those who need you to win. There's a child somewhere watching how you carry yourself. There's a stranger who's never met you, but who needs your voice. There's a version of you 10 years from now who is counting on you to keep going. You see, the jealousy around you is just noise. The real battle is with the fear within you. But when you remember who walks with you, the voice is quiet, the fear shrinks, the jealousy fades into background static, because you weren't made to compete. You were made to complete a cycle of healing in your bloodline, complete a divine assignment in this lifetime, complete the becoming of who you already are, and no amount of envy can rewrite what's already encoded in your soul. So let them stare, let them gossip, let them mock your rise, because in time they'll realize the very thing they envied was the thing that could have freed them too. But you'll keep rising, keep glowing, keep moving like someone who knows. The throne isn't out there, it's within you, and nothing jealous eyes can do will ever dim the royalty in your bones. There's a strange silence right before your name starts rising. You feel it in the air, don't you? Something begins to move beneath the surface, not in the noise of others, but deep within your bones. The ache starts changing. The solitude doesn't sting like it used to. The shadows that once haunted you now feel like teachers instead of threats. This is what happens right before your elevation. You stop needing the approval you used to crave. You stop chasing the people who kept walking away. And without warning, you start seeing clearly. You notice who's clapping with you, but hiding envy in their eyes. You feel the subtle tone shifts the way people suddenly become busy, or confused, or distant once you start glowing again. They watched you suffer, secretly glad it wasn't them. But now they're watching again. Because the fire you tried to smother is returning, stronger, brighter, impossible to ignore. And they're afraid. Afraid that your rise means their excuses won't hold anymore. Afraid your peace will expose the chaos they still live in. Afraid your self-respect will highlight how they keep settling. So now, they don't just envy your potential. They envy your resilience. Because you were supposed to stay broken. You were supposed to stay silent. You were supposed to be too tired, too discouraged, too done. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You healed, in front of their shadows. You rose, without the applause. You kept your spirit clean, even when jealousy surrounded you like smoke. And that's what changed everything. Let me tell you something sacred. When the chosen one stops doubting themselves, heaven moves. Your ancestors start lining up behind you. Opportunities appear that you didn't chase, they find you. And the same ones who mocked you start mimicking you. They watch your every post. They quote your words without giving credit. They copy your path while denying you lit it. They act like they aren't watching, but their jealousy betrays them. And here's where your strength is. Test it again, because the old version of you would have tried to fix things. You would have asked, did I offend them? You would have softened your light, hoping not to make them uncomfortable, but not anymore. You're past the phase of making others feel comfortable in their mediocrity. You're done dimming your glow to make others feel okay with their shadows. You were called, and you're finally answering that call, which means your energy is shifting. And when energy shifts, the spiritual realm reacts. Pay attention to the shift happening around you now. Old friends are growing silent. Sudden opportunities start appearing, tempting but draining. New people show up, claiming to support you, but carrying hidden agendas. This is spiritual. The moment you step into divine alignment, both light and darkness take notice, and not all attention is supportive. You're not just being watched by people who envy you. You're also being studied by those who want to stop you, because the world doesn't fear your ambition, it fears your awakening. The moment you realize you don't need their approval to shine, that's when you become unstoppable. And some people can't handle that. They liked you better when you were insecure, when you doubted your gifts, when you stayed small and unthreatening. But now, you've reclaimed your voice. You speak with purpose. You move with clarity. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And that glow, that's not just healing, that's power. Let me remind you of something powerful. Your presence alone is a mirror, and people don't hate you. They hate what they see in themselves when they're around you, because your discipline reminds them of their procrastination. Your authenticity exposes their masks. Your success reminds them of every excuse they've clung to. They don't want you to fail. They need you to fail, because if you rise, they'll have to admit they could have risen too, and not everyone is ready for that kind of truth. So their jealousy grows louder, their comments get more passive-aggressive, their distance becomes more obvious. But let them pull away. You don't need proximity to fulfill prophecy. God didn't call you to be liked. God called you to be light. And light doesn't apologize for shining. It doesn't shrink in the presence of shadows. It stands boldly, because it knows it was born to reveal. Now, here's what's beautiful about where you are. The very people who doubted you, they're watching again. But this time, it's different. They're not just watching to see if you'll fall. They're watching because they know you won't. They sense it now, that you're not just lucky, you're aligned. That your favor isn't random, it's divine. That your resilience isn't performance, it's purpose. And suddenly, they're scared, because deep down, they know you are always going to make it. So what now? Do you keep proving your worth to those too blind to see it? Do you dim your voice just to keep the peace? Or do you finally walk in what you've always been? Because, chosen one, you are not here to convince. You are here to complete, to walk in your assignment without fear, to hold your head high even when misunderstood, to keep going even when jealousy surrounds you like smoke, because your story isn't ending, it's beginning. This is the moment where the shift becomes obvious. You're not healing anymore, you're walking in power. You're not surviving, you're transforming rooms with your presence. You're not seeking love, you are love embodied. And nothing they say, nothing they envy, nothing they attempt can stop what heaven already approved. Let the jealous ones keep watching, because the same eyes that once mocked you will soon witness the miracle they never believed could happen. And the beauty, you won't need revenge, you won't need to boast, you won't even need to explain. because your light will speak for itself. And trust me, it will say everything they tried to silence. Do you feel that stillness right now? That eerie silence that settles just before something monumental happens. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Because whether you realize it or not, you're standing in the moment they never thought you'd reach. The moment they hoped you'd never survive long enough to see. The moment when your healing, your growth, your spiritual protection becomes undeniable. And now, everyone's watching, not because they believe in you, but because they can't believe you made it. You were supposed to quit. You were supposed to fall apart. You were supposed to drown in the betrayal, the heartbreak, the constant isolation. You were supposed to break down and never recover. And to be honest, you almost did. You cried in silence. You questioned everything. You begged for clarity that never came fast enough. You woke up mornings where the weight was too much, and nights where you whispered to the ceiling, "God, are you even listening?" But still, you didn't stop. Still, you kept walking. Still, you believed there had to be more. And that belief, it pulled you through what others didn't even know you were fighting now. Look, you're still here, still breathing, still becoming, and they're watching with wide eyes and clenched jaws, because they never thought this day would come. Let's talk about them for a second. The watchers. You know who, I mean. The ones who once called you delusional, who said your dreams were too much, who ghosted you when life got dark, and returned only when you glowed again. The ones who smiled in your face but whispered behind your back. The ones who were quietly relieved when you were low, because it made their mediocrity feel safe. They'll never admit it, but they needed you to stay broken. Because your rise threatens their comfort. Your peace exposes their internal chaos. Your strength makes their avoidance look obvious. Your calling shines a light on their compromise. And now they're watching you win battles they didn't even know you were fighting. You don't need to announce your comeback. You are the announcement. Your very presence is the prophecy fulfilled. You survived the gossip. You outlived the slander. You walked through betrayals, loneliness, and spiritual warfare most couldn't handle for a day. And you did it with grace they still don't understand. Let me tell you something deep. When you're chosen, your journey won't look like theirs. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be misjudged. You'll be envied by those you thought would support you. But you'll also be covered in a way they'll never comprehend. Because God doesn't assign favor without also assigning watchers. People will be sent into your life, not to love you, but to observe. Not to cheer for you, but to report back. Not to understand your path, but to be confused by your survival. And that's exactly what's happening now. Your glow. It's not normal, your peace. It's supernatural, your strength. It's heaven-forged. You didn't just bounce back. You resurrected from things that were meant to bury you. You found God in rooms full of silence. You created purpose out of pain. No one saw but you, and now you walk differently. You speak differently. You breathe with a clarity that can't be faked. So, yes, everyone is watching, but this time, let them. They need to see what happens when you stop begging to be understood and start walking like the miracle you are. They need to see what it looks like when someone chooses obedience over applause, when someone chooses stillness over chaos, boundaries over burnout, calling over codependency. They need to witness what happens when someone who was counted out refuses to shrink. And you, chosen one, you are that witness. You don't need revenge. You don't need to show them. You don't need to explain your elevation, because elevation explains itself. You don't argue with people stuck in versions of you that no longer exist. You don't apologize for outgrowing the roles they cast you in. You don't pretend to be small to make them feel safe. You walk, you lead, you rise, and when they ask how you did it, you smile and you say, I stopped waiting for them to see me, and I started seeing myself. Let me ask you now, can you feel it? That fire in your bones? That undeniable knowing that your story was never meant to be average? That you were sent here for impact, not just survival? Because this is not the end. This is not even the climax. This is the awakening. The part where everything turns in your favor. Where the watchers become witnesses. Where jealousy turns to silence. And silence turns to awe. Because while they were watching your downfall, heaven was preparing your display. You are the evidence that healing is possible. That spiritual awakening is real. That rejection was actually protection. That being misunderstood is the first sign you're being set apart. So let them watch, let them gossip, let them speculate, let them pretend they don't care. Their jealousy is just proof that you were right all along, that your spirit carried something they couldn't name but couldn't ignore. And now it's undeniable. So here you are, standing in the spotlight you didn't beg for, but were born for. Crowned not by man, but by fire. Tested not by people, but by purpose. Watched not with love, but with the kind of fear only truth can bring. You were chosen, you were called, you were broken to be rebuilt stronger. You were delayed to be revealed in perfect timing, and now you are becoming what they said you'd never be. Free, focused, feared, but favored. If this message found you today, it's not by chance. It's because you are the one they're watching now. Not because you asked for it, but because your light gives them no choice. And your only task now, keep shining, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. You always knew, you just needed to become it. Call to action. If this message touched something deep in your soul, if you felt the sting of being watched, envied, and misunderstood, and if you're finally stepping into your divine identity, then I need you to do 3 things. Like this video to let the world know you're still standing. Drop a comment and tell us how you rose through the jealousy. Your story could help someone else. And don't forget to subscribe. And share this with the other chosen ones. The quiet warriors. The black sheep. The ones everyone watches, but no one supports. Yet because this community, it's for the 2% who know who they are. And the watchers, they're just here for the show. Your crown is spiritual, and now it's showing. Keep walking, chosen one, you're only just beginning.